What's good, y'all? It's your boy Ross back at again with another video. So I'm gonna check out Jim Ross. This was my favorite WrestleMania match I called. Jim Ross has called some iconic matches at WrestleMania. He's called some iconic matches just in general. He, at one point was the voice of wrestling in a lot of people's eyes, especially mine. His commentary added so much, I guess you can say story and emotion to these already great matches, and having the voice like JR selling these matches, getting the story over even more with his commentary, made these matches that much more memorable. So we're gonna go and get his opinion on his favorite WrestleMania match that he called. Let's get right into it, man.
I know you'll like this one. He wants to know, what are your thoughts on how Ernie Lad would have done as an NWA World Champion? Boy, that would have been breaking a lot of barriers. He would have been the first black champion, and I don't think the NWA had one. What do you think? Could Ernie have carried the load in that era?
If it happened when Ernie was younger, in his 20s or early 30s, I think he could have done it. However, if it happened after that, Ernie's knees were just hollow. I don't know how many knee surgeries he had, but he had double digits.
Damn.
He couldn't have stood up to the challenge of going on the road, flying every day. He couldn't have done what Flair did. Not with his. He might have been able to pull it off, but you got to remember he's 6'9", so any way he travels is going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the champion traveled a lot by plane, and Ernie made it in the territories because he could travel by car and stretch out his legs. Cowboy bought him a Lincoln Continental, a 4-door Lincoln Continental, so he could stretch out. Because he'd come to TV all stoved up and messed up. And that was the tail end of his working as a heel. He was working as a heel to help get JYD over. Because they could cut a promo that was not anywhere near politically correct. And if it hadn't been two African Americans delivering the lines, I'm sure we'd have got our ass in trouble. So Ernie would have been, a young Ernie had a shot at it. Older Ernie, no shot at all.
Okay.
We got another question here from Jake. He wants to know, if an average big card has 8 matches, how many gimmick matches should you have? Even if every gimmick is vastly different from others, can you have too many, Jim?
Absolutely.
That's a good question.
Absolutely. If you want to protect the gimmick scenario, the gimmick situation, you don't have tons of them. On a pay-per-view card, you might have 2. I said might. So maybe 2. For me, if I was booking it, probably 1. And
I like the fact that he said that, because you want to protect the gimmick match itself. If you see it too many times, it doesn't hit the same. Like, for example, the Hell in a Cell, when they turned into a pay-per-view, the men's would have a Hell in a Cell, and then they eventually added the women having the Hell in a Cell, and it was already ruined. They were already ruining the gimmick just by having the Hell in a Cell every year. But then when they added the women's having one, not to say that they didn't have good matches, some of those didn't need to happen. 2 Hell in a Cell matches in one night is overkill on a gimmick that was being overkilled already. When they dropped it down to certain situations, you would have a Hell in a Cell, you appreciate it more. You appreciate Bad Blood having I think that was the only gimmick match was Hell in a Cell between Drew and CM Punk. They built off that. They built the show off of just this hatred between these two guys deserves to be in this structure to finally end it. You don't really need too many gimmicks on your show, even if you have a lot of matches, because you want to make sure the gimmick is special and you want to make sure that it makes sense. You're not just putting a gimmick and then later in the show you want to put another gimmick match in there. No, you want to make sure it makes sense. Make sure that when they do see it, oh, it's a special attraction. Oh, shit, we're getting something special. Not, damn, we just saw this last week, or we just saw this last month. Damn, we getting 2 type gimmick matches when it's like, I don't think it's necessary. So less is more in certain gimmick matches for sure. And I'm obviously, you see Jim Ross is kind of agreeing to that point.
The way it adds more to the gimmick match that's on the card, because there's not a lot of similarities. It's different.
There we go.
You know, it's a let me up, that type thing. So I believe that that's the way to go on that deal, because you want to protect every match on the card.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you got to talk to your talents about what the main event's going to do. If the main event's getting blood, you don't want to get blood in match 2, 3, or 4, or 5, whatever. You just don't.
And that's the thing. And that's been the criticism for AEW. If a lot of people are bleeding in all the other matches, it doesn't feel as special when you get to the main event and then there's color, you know. And that's a fair criticism. You want to make sure whatever's happening doesn't take away from your later main events. So he making some great points there.
And a lot of guys think that, well, that's going to screw me up. Well, tough shit. Work harder, get in the main event.
Yeah.
We ain't doing it. Let's go have
that.
Let's go execute. And so that's how I'd book it. 8, and of course on AEW pay-per-views we have generally more than 8 matches, right, Conrad?
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, there was so much wrestling the other night. I mean, it felt like, you know, and that's one of the things you can always count on with AEW pay-per-view. They're going to overwhelm you with value. If you're looking for great wrestling, look no further than an AEW pay-per-view, because you're going to have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to great wrestling matches. I don't know how many there were the other night, but I mean, I know we've seen some AEW pay-per-views that had like 12 or 14 matches in a show.
It might be too many. It might be too many.
Well, perhaps. I mean, if you're looking to overdose on great wrestling.
Here's the thing about that, and Jim has a point. There is too many. I get it. They don't have as many pay-per-views. That's fine. I still think too many of the shows, that's a lot of matches. It's a lot of matches. I think they may need to switch up the pay-per-view structure to have it more often. But, you know, at the end of the day, if you have some good matches within it, that's cool. But at the same time, having matches that, and I've seen, you know, even the recent pay-per-view that they had, watching the crowd's reaction, and a lot of times they just kind of just sitting there, you know, just watching the match, not really giving much of a reaction. The crowd's just kind of dead until, like, you know, a certain spot or the end of the match. It can kind of be, it can give off the illusion that, yeah, they're doing some good stuff in the ring, but, you know, after 7 or 8 matches of seeing that, you know, it gives off the illusion that the crowd isn't as interested as they should be. So I do think, and I've always said this, if they could drop down some of these matches, even on these shows, if they drop down a number of these matches, I think it could be beneficial. Because there is such thing as having too much wrestling. And that's the thing. Too much of a good thing, you can get burnt out on it. So that's all I'm saying. Not to discredit them having great matches. It's just putting so many on one show can be tiresome. And you see it in the crowd a lot of time. They just kind of just sitting there until maybe the end of the match. They may pop or whatnot. But, you know, that can be a thing.
There it is.
Cost it not a dime. Looking's free.
Aaron has a great question for you, and I'm sure you've answered this 1,000 times, but I don't know the answer right off the top of my head. Jim, what's your favorite WrestleMania match that you've called? Because you've called them all, man.
Boy, that's a tough one, because it's like saying which of your kids is your favorite.
Yeah.
I got 2 lovely daughters. I'll see at Christmas time. We're going to have Christmas in Norman with my kids, which is going to be a first for a while, because everybody's got they get older.
Yeah.
And they got an itinerary. They got friends. They got in-laws, and all these things complicate the situation. So anyway, I got 2 great daughters, and I'm going to see them at Christmas time. So that's going to be cool. What was your question?
Your favorite WrestleMania?
Favorite WrestleMania match. Man, I have a hard time moving away from WrestleMania 13 and Austin and Brett because of all they accomplished in the match. turning the most beloved babyface heel, turning the most hated heel babyface was a tremendous accomplishment.
A tremendous that double turn. Work of masterpiece. That's to be able to do a double turn so perfectly. It's fantastic.
Austin's blood was right amount, right time. Some of the visuals on TV were so memorable. So that would be one for sure, without a doubt. I had a kind of an obscure one. I can't remember who was involved in the damn thing, which sounds ridiculous for me to say, but it was a 60-minute match in England. I think it featured John Cena and maybe Shawn Michaels.
Oh,
you could.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. That's not a WrestleMania match, but God damn it, it should have. It was a WrestleMania rematch. Woohoo! Woo! Chef's kiss. That's all I got to say.
Have Bull look that up, but I think that's accurate. That was a phenomenal match, and it was UK only show. I think. I'm not sure, but I think. So maybe somebody out there's listening to us live could help us out there a little bit. We'll take your text, right, Conrad, your tweet or whatever the fuck.
Absolutely.
And so anyway, that was one that I would definitely put on my list. Undertaker and Shawn had one in Phoenix.
26.
Because the three of us drank a couple bottles of Jack Daniels, which I hate, after the match at their they had a area roped off, and Undertaker had his trailer or bus. Shawn had his bus, and they kind of made a little compound. We had a security guard standing outside that didn't let anybody in, and I had the greatest fellowship that I've probably ever had with two guys, Taker and Shawn. So,
and that was a really good match too. The retirement match, the streak versus the career, WrestleMania 26. Still 25 is my favorite, but 26 was a really close second, and it was still really good. The story behind it was fantastic. I mean that was a very iconic match too.
Conrad, that question is hard to answer because I've been around so fucking long, and I called them all.
Yeah,
I called them all.
Yeah,
and when I named some, and obviously you're going to leave some out, just then don't take that as a sign I didn't like that match.
Right.
So but Austin and Brett always pop into my mind when that question is asked of me.
Me too.
Because of what they accomplished. They had a finish. Brett goes over. But what happened at the end? What did they process? What information did they process? Well, hell, they changed roles.
Yeah.
And they had a little color.
Yeah.
And Brett leading the way, and Steve, the heel normally leads the match, but I would imagine that Steve interjected his stuff, but that he let Brett have the reins to the center schooner.
Yeah, man. That's a very good pick there, because it was one of the greatest double turns you could say in wrestling history, because it worked and it changed the path of both of their careers, and it worked out. So comment down below, let me know some other videos y'all want me to check out, wrestling related videos y'all want me to check out. Shout out to JR and his I believe this is his podcast right here, Grilling JR with Jim Ross. So hey, I'm gonna link down the video down below so that way y'all can go check it out. Subscribe if you haven't already. But I appreciate all the love and support y'all showing on the channel. Road to 150K. Appreciate y'all kicking with me. See y'all next one. Peace.